All right, now that we've had a little time to digest Donald Trump's address to Congress and hear all the hot takes on the cable TV shows, what does it mean, and where do we go from here? It certainly doesn't seem like Republicans and Democrats are best friends following the speech, and government shutdown could be looming. And even though usually I just say don't even bother, it's just theater, this time it could be a real thing, as Democrats are looking to do anything to slow this president down just 40-some days into the term. Let's bring in David Dulio, Distinguished Professor of Political Science Department and Director of the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University. Good morning. How are you?
I'm well, Kevin. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
That was quite a show.
That was unlike any speech of that nature that I can certainly remember. I don't think it's going out on a limb to call it the most confrontational speech before a joint session of Congress. You know, we had Representative Green, of course, removed from the chamber for continually interrupting President Trump. It sometimes it probably doesn't seem like it, but the House of Representatives does have rules for decorum. And they enforce them, right? And I think, you know, we can also look at the president. He played a role in that, you know, a lot of finger pointing, a lot of name calling. And so it was, I imagine if I was in the chamber, I would have described it as tense.
Yeah, Donald Trump sort of egging Democrats on, the Democrats taking the bait. I remember before it went down, I said, I don't know what to expect here. And I was thinking about Joe Biden calling himself the great unifier, and I don't think he ended up being that at all. But this Donald Trump was definitely not being the great unifier there.
He was not. And, you know, when a party has unified control of government, and which Republicans have now, they need to unify the Congress less. Although, I mean, there's a big caveat to that in the fact that Republicans have such thin majorities in both the House and Senate. But, you know, Trump, I think you make a really good point. I think he goaded the Democrats into some of their behavior. And, you know, when he said at the start that nothing I can say will make you smile or applaud. And they didn't for the whole night, including when the 13-year-old that's battling cancer, got his Secret Service badge, right. And the other gentleman who, found out he got into West Point, or the family and the 95-year-old mother of the guy that was returned from a Russian prison. There was no acknowledgement of them or anything like that. I think it was really, that's what I think is going to be remembered most of all from this speech.
Isn't that something too? Because what a missed opportunity by the Democrats. Because typically what you'll have this felt like a Donald Trump pep rally kind of, and you go and they have these pep rallies, and then what happens is the cable TV shows, especially the ones who don't like Donald Trump much, they'll take it and they'll say he lied about this, he did this, he did that, and they could have done that as well if the Democrats had just gone along and clapped at appropriate times and didn't clap when they heard something they didn't like. But the way they sat on their hands, and the press secretary came out and admonished them for it, and I think that's kind of, you're right, that's what the American people saw. If they didn't see them there, if they didn't, if this was just a pep rally, they came out and said Donald Trump lied about this, that, and the other thing, it would be points against Donald Trump. But because we got to see their reaction in real time, I think it ends up being points against the Democrats.
I think so too, and there were plenty of issues that the president touched on that the public, and a large majority of the public, agrees with him on, and the border and immigration policy is probably at the top of the list. As you know, that was his, I would say, number one issue during the campaign, and the numbers we're getting from the southern border are unquestionable, right? I mean, and the drop in illegal crossings is stark, and the public, that's what Trump promised, that's what they voted for, and that's what he's delivering on. I think that not acknowledging that is a mistake.
And Trump is such a showman. He does a mic drop moment that says, they said we needed congressional cooperation. It turns out all we needed was a new president. Boom, mic drop. I mean,
absolutely. And that was one of the real interesting things to me, is that this was in many ways a very Trumpian speech, right? I mean, and as it very rally-like, but at the same time, this one was a little different in that he really stuck to the teleprompter. He stuck to the script, which I think shows a little bit more discipline, if we can use that word, with President Trump. And I think that's a smart thing for him to do. I think he can sometimes hurt himself when he goes off the cuff.
One of the things that I found interesting, Donald Trump came in very, very active. The public seems to like that. Then he hits a roadblock with this Zelensky situation in the White House. American people are like, wait, what's going on? Why would he treat someone like this? Then he's got the tariffs coming, right behind that, and his popularity is like, well, all right, I'm not so sure. Then he pops out and has a performance like this and pulls a letter out of his pocket from Zelensky, who's now regrets how this went down and wants to do a deal under the leadership of Donald Trump. Is this what's going to happen? Is this going to be an up and down swing with Donald Trump, or is the public at a point where they say, all right, we do not like a lot of the things he does, but we like the results, so we're going to let him do what he wants to do with tariffs and see how it plays out?
I think the tariff question is the biggest political vulnerability for the president. And I think it's because it's for a number of reasons. Number one, people see the stories about, what is going to be affected. And certainly here in Michigan, we are keenly aware of the potential impacts here, right, with the auto industry. And I think, although we should say that the president did announce a 30-day pause on tariffs related to autos, coming back and forth from Canada and Mexico. But I think there's a lot of uncertainty in the public about what these mean. And I think if there's a critique that I could offer of the White House, it's that they haven't explained the long-term strategy with these tariffs. I could see the president doing an Oval Office address where he lays out the strategy and explains, these are the steps that we're going to take. Here's how it might affect us in the short term, but here's the long-term benefit, at least as he sees it. So and that hasn't happened. I think he's suffering from a little bit of assumption fatigue from the public. Yeah,
it seems to me that his theory is that these companies are going to come and they're going to build plants in America, and when they build plants in America, there's going to be more jobs in America, and America is going to have a stronger economy, but it's lost in all of the things that are going on in the world. And
that's my assumption as well, but I think that he has to acknowledge that that's going to take a long time, and maybe just to be able to point out, look, he did say a little bit in the speech that, hey, there's going to be some discomfort. I think that's the word he used, discomfort in the short term. But I think that they could do a better job of explaining the strategy.
Maybe he needs to come out for a press conference one day and just have a 30-second press conference the way Joe Biden used to. Then there's only one message for the day, and that's it. He says so much that you can pick and choose, and it becomes easy for some of the mundane, what seems like mundane, to get lost in the story. It's wild. David Dulio, we really appreciate you coming on today. As always, distinguished professor, political science department, and director, Center for Civic Engagement, Oakland University. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right. That's going to do it for All Talk today. Paul W. Smith in Focus.